So basically, is like that's what I see in practice. People that have like religion, you know. But yeah, that's a big point where we get to that side of like, okay, now is forgiveness. And I have a couple. Like I have a somewhat large practice. I have about 30 active clients right now, and I would say like a good half of it, like we're all working towards like forgiveness, and that is the hardest thing in the practice, at least in you know, because we're going from all the consciousness we have up to this moment, what forgiveness is. But one thing that people really, one thing that I feel like is very easy to relate is when we talk about forgiveness as forgiving myself, right? Because resentment is to to feel it again. And I keep feeling it again and again and again. Like if there was a knife here, my dad lied to me, my dad abused me. There's all sorts of things. Like I was sexually abused by my neighbor. I was sexually abused by my uncle. I was all types of trauma, and then people are like, "How am I gonna forgive?" You know, I just keep remembering.
The mistake forgiving when forgetting.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, it's not about forgetting. It's more so we start the path of forgiveness with the aspect: why am I gonna hate myself today? Why am I gonna hurt myself? Because every time I feel anger towards that, I feel pain, right? And this is happening in the present moment. And it's not doing anything for the person who did in the past. And the person who did in the past may not even exist anymore. They may be another person now. But that's not an easy thing. But I was looking into the Spiritism book today, and I found a couple of things that were inspiring. But when we talk about these trials, right? Like, oh, what is it, a trial? Like we are made simple and ignorant, right? To go to the world, to grow spiritually, right? So we're here, now that we're here in the Spirit Center, we can explore that part. So we're here, and we didn't come here just to have a good time. We also came here to grow. And that doesn't always, it's not always painless, but definitely not necessarily all about suffering, right? And this is what we do a lot in counseling. It's like we alleviate suffering, right? But the pain is real, right? And we call them trials, right? So I was looking at this question. So until we reach the stage of perfect purity, so when the spirit, right, like we have the orders of spirit, so when we're purifying ourselves, which means we are learning the things, we're evolving spiritually, right? Does the spirit have to constantly undergo trials? Like, do we have to keep going through this? Like, be incarnated, have the worst situation, you know? And then even people come to me and say, like, oh, you chose those people to be your parent. They're like, what? No, I have not. No, I haven't. And the truth is that in the Spiritism book, yes, we did. We did. Because what we look as pain, it's pain because we're looking from the material perspective. In reality, when we walk back, right? When we're no longer in the micro, yeah. When we are further back, we're like, oh, this is helping me. What if I had chronic PTSD? If I had, I don't know, like 10 different types of trauma up to now. Let's say I have 10 different deep, painful experiences to learn how to forgive. But why me? That's another subject, but that one also happens. Well, because you're brave. Because you can. Because God, nothing in their incarnation happens without God knowing. So, wow, he really, it really believes in us, like so much more than sometimes we think we could do, you know. And yes, depending on our free will development and development of our consciousness, yes, we chose a lot of it. We did, not the details though, but the big things. So you see, like, this is what they're answering. So why am I going to go through all these things, like, until I get better? Like, is this going to be it? Is just going to be this, like, painful journey? Yes, but they are not as you understand them. You call material tribulations trials. Even though it may not yet be perfect, a spirit that reaches a certain degree does not have any more trials to endure. Yeah, because perfection is always, I forgot the word. It's perfection is always not direct perfection, right? It's I don't remember the word. Relative. Thank you so much. That was it. It's always relative, right? Our perfection is always going to be relative. That's why because perfect is God, no? So even though it may not yet be perfect, a spirit that reaches a certain degree doesn't have to do any more trials, right? However, it always has non-suffering duties. And this is like, it gets to a point where we're going to help others, right? Like we study how we have our spirits that are guardians, right? They're with us. There's different types of spirits that are with us, not only our guardian angels, but our family too that comes to see us. So I feel like Spiritism just gives us so much hope, because I'm not gonna lie, when people come to me and tell me, when I hear really, really, really sad stories, it's impossible not to be like, all right, so where's God? How come you're sexually abused at 5? How come you're abandoned? How come? You know, and then you feel pain with empathy, right? And it's hard to be like, okay, I'm a spirit. Okay, but this is happening, this is painful. And how do I help this person? How do I help myself? How do we help ourselves, right? And I feel like this is what I'll tell you, there's no, in trauma, for me, my work with trauma, it's God. It's more than just this. Just this doesn't explain the beauty, the resilience that we have, right? To be here. So I just wanted to use this last few minutes to see, what do you guys think about all of that? Because I know this is strong talk. If it makes sense, because this is the moment I feel rebellious. You know, like, why God? Why me? Why did it have to be that way?
I think we get stuck, and that's why it's the most common understanding. If you only stuck yourself that this is the only life, you're only going to see yourself as a victim.
Yes.
Once you have a little more perspective and you understand that you could have been the villain in the past, and now in this lifetime you're being the victim, but you were probably, if not worse than what has happened to you, it had caused that to happen to others.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think Spiritism help us to understand that having different lifetimes in this journey of purification. So if I'm going through suffering, I'm having an opportunity to go through and probably repair for whatever had happened in the past, which God has helped me to forget all of that. It's not stuck here. But I don't know, in your profession, I think it's difficult for you to make that transition from a victim or in a place of responsibility to, if the person cannot see the past.
Yeah, and we call it like instill hope, how we're going to instill hope. And, you know, because being a victim is not really bad. There's its perks. There's some good stuff about being a victim, you know. You get some attention, right? You get like complain a few times a year and be okay with it. There's a bunch of things that we do, and to overcome the duality, right, between victim and perpetrator, is a spiritual experience. There's no way to do it if it's not spiritual. Otherwise, you're like, yeah, you did me wrong, I do you wrong. That's it. Like, we just keep doing that. You know, why would I be better? Right? Nah, why would it be better? What? You did that to me, right? But it gets to a point that, yes, if I'm a victim, I don't have power. And that's what happens a lot in trauma. Being traumatized, it's like being in your worst, you, in your worst situation and being stuck in it and not being able to defend yourself and have it repeat over and over again throughout your life. It's like being stuck there. That's what severe trauma is. And then how do you say, hey, get up? Get up from there. You have control. You're not there anymore. You're here. Right? And then okay, like you're tired of being hurt, right? Then you get up and you're like, okay, I'm here, okay. But I'm so angry. And then we go through the anger. I'm so angry. I'm so angry at myself. There's also that one too. I'm so angry. Why did I allow? Oh, if I chose my family, wow, I must not be loving with myself. Why did I choose this family? It's because the goal is higher. It's much further than what we see. And in order to be the owner of our lives, we need to get up in it. Because we're the co-creators. And even though we are in the repetition over and over and over again, and that 90% of the times, it's an unconscious movement. So most of us is not even conscious that some of the things that we're doing are trauma-based. I'm irritable with everybody. I'm always angry. And this is like, we're talking about something deeper, but like when we see it outside, we see our emotions dysregulated, right? We can't really fit in our jobs, we can't fit in our families, like we can't really and that's kind of the definition of mental illness, when we have things that we can, we all have characteristics, we all have moments, but what the definition of mental illness is that when you have those symptoms and they forbid you to have a full life. Because everybody's a little selfish, everybody's a little sad, everybody's, all the things we have in the DSM, the book that we use for diagnosis, they're all experiences of life. But they're a little more severe, and they're impaired. They cause impairment. So that consequence is the consequences of being a victim sometimes. And this is what is really hard to do during practice, doing work, because we need to overcome. Yeah, we need to become the owners of our story. That's, I'm the owner of the story. I'm the co-creator here. It happened to me, And then forgiveness comes with time. It's hard work. So, anybody else has any questions about trauma? Yeah. Yeah.
There's a guy that I work with that is always playing the victim card.
Mm-hmm.
There's not necessarily a perpetrator, as you put it. It's just that everything that happens in life, he is looking at himself as the world is out to get him. I tried, and he goes to therapy, but I tried to help him get over some of the lashing out that he does just by playing the victim. What advice would you give somebody? I don't want to just leave him alone, because I don't want him to go home and get an AK-47 and shoot outside or anything. But I mean, what would you recommend? How do you talk to people that are always playing that victim card?
With a lot of compassion, and boundaries. A lot of love.
Yeah. Non-suffering duties then become suffering to me.
That's what I'm about to say. When you see somebody suffering and you have empathy, you suffer as well.
Right.
So your first reaction is to get away from pain.
Yeah.
So how you
Natural
deal,
reaction.
How you deal with that and keep aiding somebody that needs, because of course with the example right here, it's like I'm trying. It's always the same result, and kind of not wanting to feel. I have my own pains. I kind of not wanting to feel somebody else's pain as well.
Yeah.
So, what to do?
Couple of things, né? First, we check in with ourselves. I cannot give what I don't have. Period. Nobody can give. If you don't have patience that day, you don't have patience that day. It's better not to fake it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, self-assessment. We're like, okay, can I do it today? Do I have the band today to do it? And you're like, okay, I can. Motivation. What's motivating me? Is it because I don't want him to be annoying? Or is it because
I genuinely want to help them, try and get over some of the things,
But sometimes, if not you, but sometimes it happens, to me, like, what is I just say to assess, because sometimes there's different things going on. But yes, like, you want to help him. You see he's suffering. No? You want him to feel better. I'll tell you, like, if I'm listening to that, right, at work, it sounds like the person has a maladaptive core belief called everybody's here to get me. And that's a common maladaptive core belief that happens with people. There's other ones too. I am not worthy of love. There's many other ones, Things are hard for me. Like those beliefs that we have, they're not real, but we just carry them. And sometimes they come from our families. We heard them before. Or and they're spiritual too. So first of all, yeah, so that's what he has. He has a problem, like a maladaptive belief that he is, and it's important to see if he's delusional too, which means like assess this, like how severe, because when you say get a gun and go shoot people, then we need to assess as well, like how delusional is it, which means how much is he believing in things that are not here, how aggressive this person is, that's very important. How can you assess that? Well, you can say, X person is just like on my case, is always like criticizing me and doing things. Like, oh yeah. So I hear like sometimes you can like repeat back a little, like therapy. You can be like, oh yeah, it sounds like somebody's like, it's like you feel like you're being persecuted. That's really hard. How are you doing? And that's like the compassion aspect. I hear you. First, I hear you. Right? Second, I not only hear, but I can repeat back what you said because I'm listening. So you got twice there. And then you can assess with his answer, you can assess how severe the case is, Because if you are scared of him getting a gun, that's severe, I know maybe it's a joke, but in case it was real. Because sometimes that is the case. So that would be it. Like you can do those things. But acceptance is also important because, every one of us is going to trials. Sometimes they're inside, well, a lot of times they're inside of our consciousness and the things that we're creating outside of it are consequences of it. But being compassionate, being present, and honest. In counseling, not me because I'm not that expert, but there's my teachers, they're so experienced that they can confront clients during sessions. So they can say, hey, I'm feeling this like heaviness, or I'm feeling this like sense that people are out to get me. And I wonder, I feel like that's coming, like that's something you believe. And we can explore in session, But that requires so much rapport. That requires a very strong therapeutic alliance, which means we're very close together, like the person feels safe. And in the professional environment, we can approach that way. But I'll tell you, a lot of times at work, I'm not going to make the change. The person's going to make the change. It's not my trial. It's their trial. Sometimes it is a little bit of like God is so perfect and fraternal that nobody's trial is just their trial. It's also like a little bit of our trial too. We're all like sharing. So another good thing to do sometimes too is like I ask like, oh, what's God, what this experience trying to teach me?
May I just offer?
Absolutely.
Because it has happened to me. Same happened to coworker. If that person, that friend, that colleague, if you know that they have some spiritual openness, like they believe in God, they have some spiritual values. Um, it's good to talk about that. If they pray, you can offer to pray together, a very simple prayer. If they are resistant to that, you said, I'll make a prayer for you. And you do make a prayer, because what happens, the prayer will break the spiritual negativity that's there, because usually a person who is in that cycle of negativity, they're so attuned to so many spirits, and that's why they speak out loud, because they're trying to recruit us to be in the same, to be in the
The same.
bandwagon that they are into, and they are annoying us to the sense that at one point we probably, in the repetition, it will probably get us there too. The spiritual force that's surrounding there, and sometimes a legion of them, because they're so attuned. If you are sensitive to that, it doesn't feel well, that that person is better than that, but something's going on. They might be under influence, and a good, well-hearted prayer will definitely break up the energy and will give some strength for that person to kind of reset. If they're resistant to it, I say, make a prayer for you. When you have time, you go and you make a prayer, you try to intercede, and you did your part. Believe me, it always works.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds very good.
Just always boundaries. Very important. Very
If you
important.
cross your boundary, you change it from being sincere to commit to suicide.
Yes, seriously.
Just key with words.
Yeah, it's very important to have boundaries. Like, am I having a bad day today, and then I'm gonna go. We can't give what we don't have at the time. Yeah. Otherwise, it hurts us. Otherwise, people. Yeah. Otherwise, we feel a little hurt, because that person who is annoying, let's say, keeps coming towards me all the time, and I'm not having like time for myself, and and then you create a little connection, and how that connection is good for both. It has to be fraternal. Yeah, that's the only thing. Yeah, I think we're good on
We
time.
have some people here at the center, especially in the counseling, that they ask for help, but when you offer help, it needs to be help the way they want it, and that's what Valdo said. They try to grab you, to put in the same bandwagon. So sometimes as well, you need to understand that when it's time to say so be it. Because so be it's not giving up. It's just saying it won't change right now, and I don't have the ways or the power to change, but it is changing myself. So it's time for me to back up a little and see what happens, because that's free will as well.
And checking in. Yeah, just like at work for us too, with counselors, there's some times where we get cases that are very close to home. Oh, what does that mean? Oh, the trauma or the situation the client is bringing in is it like it's stirring something inside of us? Maybe a similar experience, maybe some sort of trigger. We have to refer out. I have to say, I'm really, I'm honored to have this opportunity, but at this time, I feel like it's more suited for us to find another professional. And that's the appropriate thing to do, and we are always advised to do it. And also, like, if people come in with mental illness that we're not specifically trained on, we also need to refer out. So we need to, again, assess and see, like, okay, we're having spiritual treatment, but you were thinking about suicide every day for hours a day. That's an emergency, right? So what are the steps we're going to take care of this emergency? And yes, talking to someone for hours, somebody that is suicidal, is hard. It's not easy. It takes a lot of courage, but the good thing though is that God does it, not us. Right? The good things we do is always God.
It is possible too, again, my own experience. that there is a combination of an actual uh, mental health combined with actual physical pain.
Yes.
Physical pain. A lot of people, and I had 3 back surgeries. I suffered with lower back pain for a decade. And it affects your humor so much that you're not a very pleasant person to be around with
Because of pain.
because you're in pain.
Yeah.
And sometimes you take painkillers or whatever, anti-inflammatories, and you go to the chiropractor, you do this and that, but it's a cycle. It's a cycle, and it doesn't go away. And sometimes you avoid people because you know you don't want to talk or whatever, and then you start becoming isolated.
Yeah.
So this experience I had, I was going to the turnpike. I was in Port St. Lucie, and I was having a bad day. I was driving from Fort Lauderdale to Orlando, and midway stopped in a stop area, and I was like in a horrible mood. And I'm a spiritual person, but I was feeling like garbage that day. And I was pumping gas. This man comes to me, and I was like in my way going to the bathroom. He says, "I'm sorry, I don't mind to. I look at your face, and it's like, at first I avoid him and stuff. He says, I look at your face. Are you okay? Are you doing it okay?" And he was being very sincere. He was just a stranger. And I tell you, you know what? I'm not okay. And I don't even want to talk about it. He says, I know, you know, do you believe in God? I said, I do, but that's nothing to do with God. It's my thing. He says, would you be okay if we pray together? Because if you're in pain and you're driving, and he was like complete stranger. And I said, okay. And then he closed his eyes. He held my shoulder. It was like a minute. And he just said, God, please help this brother here for him to have a safe drive home, let his pain go away, let him feel better, in Jesus' name. And he was so sincere, I swear to you. After that, I wouldn't say that I had the discomfort because it's physical, it's there. But I had amplified the pain in a way that it had already impacted all my emotions. That broke away. I was like
Able to cope with
I
it.
was able to cope, and 75% of the pain had gone away because I was so much into that cycle that prayer, and that it's not just the prayer, it's the compassion, it's the initiative of a complete total stranger just look at me and like, are you okay? And you're like, not really. It's like, do you mind? I don't mean to intrude, whatever, but let me do something if I can. And that made a whole lot of difference.
There
And
is
I try to do the same every time I can.
there established research on the power of prayer and pain, especially in pain. There's a lot of research on it. Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty in Spiritism too. They bring us, bring us the knowledge about how we can get help doing the gospel at home. So like things that we can use, tools that we can use to help us with our mental health and the ones around us.
Yeah.
So I think also the tools that in the Spirit Center we can find, we have on Wednesday, fraternal counseling. So it's not that it's gonna be a therapist, but it's gonna help us to see and to reach that other point above that the world outside usually it's not seen. So I think we have all these tools, and we can make very good usage of that. It's definitely help us as a single prayer.
The next slide you have like
I had the rest of the question.
there is one slide there that talks
about this.
Oh,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like that passage that Jesus says, come out to me, who worries, and can you try to pass it?
Oh, can I? Is it like this? No?
Maybe he can do it back there.
I have a question, actually. Right. So, not too long ago, I came here to the center. A friend of mine, I was in a really
My bad.
bad situation in my life, financially, emotionally. I was going through a lot. My marriage was almost gone. I was not being the father that I wanted to be to my daughter. And I did the fraternal counseling over here, and it was truly amazing. I got to know a lot more about myself and the things that actually led me to that point, right? So a lot of self-awareness I learned here and reading a lot. But you did mention about forgiveness and how hard that really is. Not too long ago, I always had a very difficult relationship with my father. He was a very absent person, a lot of drinking going on in my house. I started drinking at a very early age, and I don't drink now, but it was a part of my life for so long. Not too long ago, I found out also that my dad, used to be my mom, right? And not only that my sister was there when a lot of that happened, right? And talking to her, she seems like she actually found a place of forgiveness inside her. But no matter what I do, I cannot find that place of forgiveness, and I'm actually mad at my sister now because why are you forgiving me? Exactly like you said,
Yeah.
right? So from a perspective of a professional like yourself, is there anything other than, praying and try to connect with God? Is there
To forgiveness.
anything else that I can practice to try and find that place of forgiveness? Because I know inside me that I have to forgive him, but if I would say that I forgive him now, I would be lying,
Yeah.
because it's very hard for me now as a father to really accept that, So I want to really know if from a professional side, is there anything that I can practice to try and get to that place?
Yeah, I would love to say a lot of things, but in the interest of time, I'm just gonna say one thing. But it would be intention.
What?
Intention, like desire. Do I want to? Because that's where everything starts, And it talks a lot about in the Spiritism book, how a lot of times we say we want it, but we don't really want it. So it's like that talk of ourselves, like that honest talk, and be like, okay, do you want it? And like if you say no, which is normal, we're like, okay, no, I don't want it. Okay, let's talk about that voice. Because that's a hurting child. That hurting child wants to be listened. And that's what you can bring to therapy. I don't want to do it, and I want to know why. So the key is there. To live it. Yeah, be authentic, Okay, you're welcome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Natasha will come often. Last Thursday of the month, we have the meditation Spiritism. We actually do a meditation together. We bring mental health. We've been bringing crisis management as part of our key point to talk about it.
And also let us know if that kind of talk it's interesting for you, because we can try to work around our schedule and stuff. And because it's not about what we present, it's all about touch your heart and touch your day. So Spiritism is nothing if you cannot use it, right? It's a lot of information. If you don't put it in action, it's just a hallucination. It's not real. So I'm trying to find. Can you find here the record? And while we find the record for our meditation,
That's one thing about forgiving, which is the word itself. What do you have for giving? If you, whatever you have that you can give, it's what you can give. The word is perdonare in Latin, to forgive. And if you understand that in a chemical aspect, per, it's the max of the same element that you can have. So perdonare is what you can donate in maximum, what you can really donate to somebody else. So right now, we can donate our energy to the world, and that's what we can do.
I think it is